kill the music now. Now, I want everybody to take a good long listen to just what exactly I've got to say, because there's quite an awful lot that can be said about this short film we're going to be talking about. Now, to give Mr. Alexander his credit, and I'll also give credit to those taking part in this film in production: Holly Hicks, Jessica Rosengreen, and Indiana Porter. I'm going to give them the absolute credit that they deserve, because you know what? There's actually quite a lot you can take away from short films like this. And you know what? A student film, or whether or not a studio was behind it, is kind of irrelevant. You know, not every single thing is going to have the budget of Avengers Endgame. I'm not exactly expecting that sort of thing, and quite honestly, people need to pay more attention to what's actually being said as opposed to the stuff behind it, because that's a little bit more important. And for what it's worth, I may as well just get straight down to it. Now, what exactly is From Big Things, Little Things Grow about? It's about, well, as you can almost suspect, it's literally watching a young man and his absolute bona fide obsession with some girl called Sophie, and this leads to him to becoming so obsessed and so absolutely dependent on the use of technology that he basically just takes every single thing around him and granted, from throwing trash on the floor to not even bothering to, you know, just leave the tap running. Who the hell does that? I'll be honest, every single, anytime I've actually gone out in public and I've ever had to use, a restroom or anything like that, they always have those taps that just turn off automatically and all that. That's just kind of, that's sort of how that is. Now, moving aside from this, you could see from Luke's performance that from what we see of Sophia, or what we hear from her, or from what I should say, is that it's Luke's overriding sense of he can't get anything together, and he's absolutely obsessed to the point where he literally cannot stop thinking or doing things, and it boils over into absolute agony. He just does things because all of a sudden he's... And listen, this is sort of like the part where I'm going to deviate a little bit, because to be honest, ladies and gentlemen, and even though I know that I don't think Luke is heterosexual from what I remember, I could be wrong about that. I apologize to Luke if I am getting that incorrect, and I absolutely will make amends for that. But from the point of view of a man right here, I'm just going to say this right now, because Luke is about 2 or 3 years younger than me, and I'll listen, the difference in years may not be much. You know, maturity affects people in very different ways, but I'm just going to say this on behalf of what this film has managed to show me in just 5 minutes. I'm going to tell you exactly what this film manages to do in 5 minutes, that something that a feature-length blockbuster can almost never do. It kind of just makes it down to its very, very basic and very, very simple things. And the simplest thing is its message. And the message being, ladies and gentlemen, is that, you know what? It doesn't seem worth it in the end. Being obsessed does not really seem worth it. And before you realize this, the entire world has just about gone completely AWOL because of what we've done. And this is a problem, I think, that's a larger problem for society, or, well, not really so much like society. Society couldn't give a shit about our problems. At heart, probably the people we talk to or the people we see every single day, do they really care about our problems? Really? No, they've got their own shit to deal with. And you know what? Do we look at them and do we care about their problems? Think about it like that. How many times have we actually ever, whether it's a work colleague or somebody at school, and do we actually really care about what's going on with their lives? Is it that much? Do we feel that heartbreaking about it? Do we change, or do we see anything different like that? Is it anything worth getting upset about? And from my point of view, ladies and gentlemen, I think it's far more damaging not to be concerned, because the issue I have is, well, if you're willing to show such a blatant lack of compassion, even to something as frivolous as somebody else's problems and stuff like that, stuff that might be irrelevant, but what happens when you're actually talking to a friend and somebody you really care for, you hear about their problems, and then inside your head, you're still going, you know what? I still couldn't care less. At what point, ladies and gentlemen, does this like lack of compassion almost automatically just sort of like stop? Because compassion, or rather a severe lack of compassion, is also a major thing that people can get stuck in and they can get into a rut about. And that's almost equally as destructive, because before you know what happens, ladies and gentlemen, it doesn't just go towards how we look at other people. It's about how we look at ourselves. Think about the actions we do. From just, okay, you know what, we'll just give you a very blatant example. It doesn't matter if we leave the tap running, you know what, the water will still be here tomorrow. So what have we got to worry about? Oh, you know what, our room looks like, pre-2014 Christian Weston Chandler house fire, but you know what, who cares if it looks a mess? You know what, I'll see to it some other time. You know what, I've got better things to do right now. Or I keep staring at my phone all day, completely ignoring the fact of what I'm actually doing in the real world. Or I'm going to stay completely irrelevant to the fact that there are some things that I'm doing right now which should be of greater attention and interest to me. And all of a sudden, I can't, because I can't stop staring at this stupid little black brick called a phone. And you know what? That's a much larger issue. Then I think that I'm not entirely sure if if the film really did intend to like really make me feel like, you know what, this tackles something a bit bigger. But you know what? Why shouldn't the film not be, bold enough just to attack something a little bit larger than what it's just showing? Is it big? Well, I think it's because obviously of underlying themes and the fact that, you know what, I think what's really striking about all of this is just its simplicity. It's trying to subtly show you in very, very simple ways exactly what the problems are, and how at the end of the day, it's us who are the ones responsible for it. And that's, I think I almost even said in the, when I looked at my reaction to this again, is that, well, when you think about it, is there really that much more to say about it? Now, in a sense, I suppose you could say, yes, that absolutely is true, but you know what? There's something a little bit bigger I kind of wanted to discuss, something that's been a little bit more worrisome. When I sort of like look at this back, because I remember checking out this short film back in about February or March of 2020, when the short film was only about like 8 or 9 months old. And it's a miracle, ladies and gentlemen, or rather, it's absolutely amazing what happens with the passage of time. Movies like Zootopia, for example, they have a much rather larger sense of identification or relevancy because of the way that, how heavily divided the world is. And I say the world is heavily divided now, but you know what? Tomorrow it will be even worse. I am thoroughly convinced that tomorrow the world's going to get even more divided, and we will have learned absolutely nothing from this. And before you know it, there'll become some other social media craze in which all of a sudden things will go from bad to worse. And it will go far beyond forgetting just to put plastic cups in a bin or learning to turn the lights off. It's like what I talked about earlier, when that larger sense of incompassion starts boiling over, and people say it will give them merit to do just about whatever they want. It's a problem, ladies and gentlemen, because from what I've seen, and perhaps maybe I'm getting into more hypothetical stuff here, but you know what? From what I've seen, it doesn't really seem like anything has changed. TikTok, for example, is just one big fight just to see who can be at the very top. it doesn't matter, ladies and gentlemen, if you have any opinions or you think you're funny or clever or anything like that. The only thing that actually matters to some people on TikTok is numbers. Emotions, storytelling, laughter, all of that is boiled down into a series of cold, dickless numbers that not even Al Gore would be happy to see. And the thing to take away from that is, well, is that our destiny? Is that what social media is just going to look like? Or is that how we're going to explain social media to people in the future? All that matters is if you're number one. And if you're not, then it does not matter what you've got. It's a fierce world, ladies and gentlemen, out there. It's a very, very fierce world. And I think there are just some people who don't want to be a part of such a world, or there'll be people who want to just do things that are not like that. Now, as good as that might sound, and there are numerous amount of people out there who do it for more than just numbers. But unfortunately, ladies and gentlemen, in this game, and for those who want to make this a profession, then sadly, what we have to come to terms with is, again, people have to make money. People have to earn a living in this world. People have to do things that perhaps they don't like, but only because they get paid to do it. Which sometimes is a good deal, sometimes not. But the problem is, ladies and gentlemen, is it really what we want to do? Is it something that we really set our minds to? And if it goes wrong, ladies and gentlemen, then what else is there? What if the things we do is just that gives us satisfaction and a great deal of purpose, all of a sudden send us into this downward spiral, and all of a sudden we care even less? It's a strange one, ladies and gentlemen, because I think the way I can describe it, perhaps without going a little bit overboard, is that maybe I'm too obsessed. Maybe this isn't me trying to explain anything. Maybe this is just a problem that I just straight up have with things that I don't seem to thoroughly comprehend. Like, perhaps, do I have a comprehension about, if I do think that literally all social media is that, then why am I still on it? Or if all I do is going through Facebook or Twitter and people who are far more talented, people who are far more successful, rich than I am, then is that supposed to make me, actually achieve anything? I know, I don't really consider myself a person who's has bundles of bitterness stewed up in me. But sometimes I wonder if any of the things I do have actually any purpose or significance whatsoever. Does that make sense? I think that makes a little bit more sense. And what's sad about stuff like that, ladies and gentlemen, is that itself is an obsession. It's an obsession to be successful, not because you like the things you do to be successful, but it's just so that you want to have this image where people look at you and they might be jealous of you. That's perhaps maybe that's literally. You know what? I think those guys were right. You know what? I was explaining to them the premise about what RageCon 2 was about, and they advised me that it's not a particularly very good idea to do things out of revenge or to do things out of spite. And the more I think about it, ladies and gentlemen, I've honestly have to ask myself this right now. Is RageCon 2, was this whole year the thing I spent all this time doing, all of this work? Did I do it for not good reasons? Did I do it for reasons that were selfish, the things that were spiteful? I mean, let's take it back to the film itself. Do you think that do you think that Luke was seeing the Sophie girl because she liked him, or was it because of less noble reasons? You see Sophie calling Luke babe and that, and did Luke have this thing where maybe he looked at Sophie with a sense of more well, I think you could probably guess what that might have been. And maybe that's how maybe I'm starting to look at RageCon 2 a bit like that. I'm looking at it as like almost like a strumpet. I'm almost looking at it as a sort of way to just literally sit back and watch people grow jealous, and I can gloat about my intelligence and the way I look at things. Now, I know what you're probably thinking to yourself, that can I really get all of that stuff from something like this? But you know what? I think I can. And you know why? Because most of my year has basically always been this cycle. We see Luke, go walking from place to place. Maybe that's just what I feel like this entire year is, because to be honest, most of this year has been one day after another. I get up, I do papers, I come back. Basically, my working day is like nearly 14 hours anyway, and then I fit in the rest by doing videos, have some dinner, and then go to bed. If my day has any more variety than that, then it's only some very one-off sort of things. And that seems almost not worth it. I don't know. I don't really consider myself a particularly spiteful person. At least I hope I don't. I think that will just come down to whether or not people think I'm being spiteful. And maybe that's the only real grey area, like the comparisons between this film, is that am I really spiteful? Or because I don't think, like, well, you can see like the way Luke's actions change in the film is that he goes from being obsessed to just downright being, full of anger and rage. So, I mean, listen, and again, I get pissed at stuff like that. You know what? I've had I talk to women on dating apps after about 2 or 3 days. Then they just straight up just like block me and stuff like that. And you know what? It wasn't even through anything we've actually said in that. Just we talk, very casually trying to ask very simple questions, and then boom, they just block because I don't get it. But fortunately, ladies and gentlemen, and maybe this is something to redeem myself a little bit here, that hasn't made me feel like any more spiteful towards the opposite sex just because they didn't find me interesting. Because to be honest, ladies and gentlemen, and you know what, fellas, I'll just say this on your behalf as well. If you really think that women are going to be that shallow and you should start thinking less of women just because they're not interested, well, I'll say this. If they're willing to just stop talking to you after not even getting to know you properly, then you know what? I think you should just move on from them, because you know what? They do not know what they're missing. I'm just going to say that right now. And you know what? I'll say that on behalf of literally every single person who's ever blocked me on Tinder without even bothering to talk to me properly. I'm literally going to put that out there right now. Because to be honest, fuck them. To be honest, fuck them. And that's actually quite a healthier thing to do than you might think. Just to straight up say how you really feel is the perfect way we could get started to trying something a bit different. And maybe that's how we'll end up like Luke at the end of the film. We let out all this anger and aggression and rage, and all of a sudden we become new people. Maybe, ladies and gentlemen, that's what really RageCon 2 is all about. I've once said that the greatest human emotion aside from love is rage. Because rage makes you feel things and it makes you want to do things. And I've been in that stage of my life for years, ladies and gentlemen, where I've realized that my situation, whether it's at school, university, or being in the real adult world, where I felt like, no, this is not right, this doesn't make sense, and I shouldn't have to put up with this. And lo and behold, ladies and gentlemen, I thought about it, and thought about it, and thought about it, and then decided to do something about it. You know what? I think that says a lot. And you know what? I've gotten so good at this idea that I've managed to boil down like a situation to no more than 4 seconds. one to analyze, one to judge, one to consider, and then one to act. And that's literally all it takes, ladies and gentlemen. All it takes is 4 seconds. I mean, you know what? The BBC turned down my apprenticeship, and you know what? It took me all of 4 seconds to get over it. And I like to imagine, ladies and gentlemen, maybe it might seem painful now, but in a couple of days' time, I'm pretty sure we might all get over it. It may seem like a little thing, ladies and gentlemen, but little things grow.